Okay. Now let's just have YouTube catch up. Come on. Come on. There we go. Nice. All right. That's all good. Everything's set there. Everything's cool. This stuff's popped out. And there we go. Lighting in here is weird today. I don't know. It's like it's gotten slightly cloudy and it's just... Things look fine on the camera's little screen, but OBS looks weird. But anyway, we'll live with it. Hope everyone's doing well. It's been a bit again. I thought last week was going to be fine again for Every Other Sunday show. I actually had said that in the previous Every Other Sunday show, but that's because I did not realize that my flight to Canada was leaving at noon. I thought it was leaving at like 4 or even 3. So that was on me. So that's why we didn't have one of these last week. And so I apologize for that. Let's see here. What do we got? Why can't... There we go. Castman says, hyped for the new models, interested in the new rules, but will likely never play it. We'll build and paint and then use it in other systems. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Skaven don't interest me, says Rot Golem. The Stormcast Eternal resculpts are uninspired. I mean, it's a lot more of the same, really. You know what I mean? And the rules previewed have a weird board gamey vibe that doesn't really click. I mean, I like the fact that they're trying to make things a little easier or streamlined or whatever, but it's hard to say. Good morning from Calgary. Not a drop of GW hype so far to be seen. How you doing? Axe and Axe. Fungazi, how you doing? In Drizzly, Washington, D.C. Bill, can't stay but hi. How you doing? I'm hyped about Spearhead. Couldn't care less about the Launchbox. Launchbox. I was thinking, yeah. If the Launchbox has 2 Spearheads in it, let me back that up. If the Launchbox has at least the Skaven Spearhead in it, then I'm kind of interested. If, like, so right now, well, not right now because I'm doing this, but even not right now, I haven't been able to do any hobby for myself in a minute. Like, since there might have been a day I did some hobby between Adepticon and going to Denmark, but I don't think so. There has certainly not been any hobby that I've been able to do for myself since I got back from Denmark. Because it was layout for the book and all that kind of stuff and everything, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But nonetheless, where was I going with this? Oh, so I'm building the Cities of Sigmar Spearhead. And unlike Combat Patrol, where I did 4, almost finished 5 Spearheads painted, or, well, Combat Patrols, I don't know that I'm going to do too many more. Now, I might do Skaven. I could see myself doing a Skaven Spearhead as well, but I don't know that I'll see myself doing many more than that. We will see. So hopefully they do what they did like within Leviathan, where the Combat Patrols were in the box for Leviathan, and hopefully they do the same thing here. That would be smart to do, I think. Let's see here. Another muggy morning in deep South Texas. Hype is not my thing, but I'm going to enjoy the conversation anyway. I'm not going to really, there's not a lot of hype. I didn't really know what to put on the title screen for this week. I was like, I didn't really have a great... I have painted myself into a corner by making all of these title screens different. And every once in a while, yeah, there is definitely a subject, you know, but there's also times when I'm just like, I don't really know what to talk about exactly this week. And you know, these things will happen organically, and that's the whole idea of the chat, but I got to have something on the thumbnail. So there was a bunch of stuff because there's going to be a thing coming out. I think Thursday they're going to have the big announcement. I don't know why Thursday. It's a strange... That's like Thursday, 7 p.m. Central, which is like, for me, nearly the worst time for it to happen because I'm going to be probably editing my next video and not have the time to watch it. But yeah, if they do it anything like the Adepticon reveal, I'm not going to watch it anyway because it's going to take an hour and 12 minutes and it's just going to be one long video. So let's not do that. I'll see the information afterwards. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. So we can talk about anything you want. Don't get me wrong. Good morning from Norwich. I was interested in trying new Age of Sigmar until they announced another price hike. Well, they're going to do that every year, so you should probably maybe just not be interested. Like, they're never going to stop. Like, that's not a thing. That's not how they work. They will always make a new price hike every single year, or at least every 18 months, it feels like. Until they decide, oh gosh, we've gone too far. But, capitalism, I don't think there's such a thing as going too far. Price tag on the starter box is another issue to be tackled. Yeah, no, I can understand that. Curious to know how the new Age of Sigmar will affect my stinky nurgly dudes. That's a good question. Uncle Adam, good morning and happy Mother's Day from Nutley, New Jersey. Hope your mom is doing well. I'm going to see her a little bit later on this afternoon. She's doing okay. Morning from Quebec. How you doing? Liverpool. It's hard to carry on when a lot of the companies are getting erased. Sure. Well, loved your chat with Ash from Guerrilla Miniature Games. Excited for your new game at the end of the month? Absolutely. So for those of you that maybe didn't see, last week, so the reason I didn't have the Every Other Sunday show last Sunday was because I had to go to Canada for a trade show that I was working for Army Painter. So I went to Canada. I was there Sunday. The trade show started on Monday. It went until Tuesday around 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. So then I drove and I was in Niagara-on-the-Lake, which is directly across the border from Buffalo, like right across the border. And that's where this place was. And then I drove south for a little while. And by like a little while, I mean literally like 30 miles, maybe less, to St. Catharines, which is a city in the southern part of Ontario down there. And it's about 140,000 people, according to Wikipedia. I looked it up. And that's where Ash is. So I went down there and got a hotel room. Actually, I got a hotel room in Niagara Falls on the Canada side. Stayed there. Wednesday, got up, went and hung out with Ash. We filmed that thing you saw. We chatted a lot in that thing. We chatted before and after stuff that we didn't record. And then I left there and then drove back into the States. And then I stayed in a hotel outside of Buffalo, or like right outside the airport. And then Thursday morning at like 3 o'clock in the morning, I had to get up for a 6 o'clock flight a.m. and I was home by lunch back here. So that's where I've been back and forth a lot. But the video went live on Ash's channel yesterday, Saturday. So it's just a conversation between the just two old dudes talking about what we think that the current situation in the industry is. So if you're interested in that, take a look at it. Good morning from sunny coastal North Carolina. How are you doing? Good morning from St. Louis. Just got done watching your conversation about the current state of the mini wargaming. You both had great points. It was a great listen. Beast of Chaos was my army, so yeah, no, I can understand that. VJ Morph, how you doing? Let me see here. I am way behind on chat. My goodness gracious. Blake's Pipes, how you doing? Good afternoon from Kent, England. Double Dip, how you doing? Good morning from Jonesboro, Illinois, where I not actually wait. Gotcha. Clearwater, Florida, how you doing? Sunny, Tennessee. Skaven Refresh is probably going to be what gets my play group into Sigmar. I'm excited that my Soul Blight will finally get to see the tabletop. Sure, yeah. Good afternoon from a hot, sunny Isle of Wight. How you? Hope you're well. Yeah, absolutely. Doing fine. My wife has a cold or allergies. We're not sure, but other than that, things are fine. She had a gig, and which is why you can see Nick is out there outside in the living room. He's not here in the room. But yeah, she had a gig last night, so she got back home late. Booked my flight for Chicago for Adepticon next year. Nice. You do know it's in Milwaukee, right? Just FYI. Just want to make sure that you know that it's not in Illinois anymore. They moved it to Milwaukee, but I'm assuming you know that. Afternoon from a sunny Puckle Church, working on 28mm AWI Colonials. Nice. Josh, how you doing from Wisconsin? Musselburgh, Scotland. Boone, Iowa, how you doing? Good afternoon from a very warm West Midlands. How you doing? It's supposed to get up to 77 today, allegedly, but it's supposed to be windy too. Been a listener of yours for easy 4+ years, but never been here for a live. Thanks for all you do. Well, I appreciate that, Corey. Thank you very much. Sunny for once, England. Nice. Good morning from cloudy central Pennsylvania. Hyped for Spearhead. From Underworlds and Warcry, I almost have 3 armies. Nice. Who was I talking to? Was it in the, I think it was in the Twitch chat yesterday, maybe. Must have been Twitch. No, I didn't Twitch yesterday. I had Twitch on Friday. I don't know who I was talking to. I was talking to somebody recently, and they said that, and I guess I hadn't read this anywhere, that Spearhead is supposed to be played on a kill team board. So, like, Combat Patrol is played on 2 kill team boards, so it's 44 by 30. But Spearhead's allegedly played on just a normal 22 by 30, which is amazing from the number of models that you see on some of those Spearhead boxes. That's going to be interesting. Can't obviously have very much terrain then in that situation either. So yeah, interesting. Let's see here. Temporarily sunny Saskatchewan. Nice. That's fun to say. Hello from Alabama. 2 times out of the country in 2 months. Are you even tabletop minions? I know, it's weird. It's very strange. It won't happen for a while now. Afternoon from Scotland. I bought a Seraphon army, not played a game yet, hoping new Age of Sigmar edition hype might just inspire me to paint and play. Well, I hope so too. Unusually warm Glasgow, Scotland. Sunny Milwaukee. How you doing, Jesse? Jesse's going to be running some games at TMX coming up. I just found out today that the Saturday of TMX is also the local comic and toys expo or whatever here in town, I guess, which I've never even heard of before. But yeah, they just decided to have it during TMX, which I take as an act of aggression. So they have no idea who I am. But yeah, so if you get bored, if you're at TMX and you get bored on Saturday, you can head down the street to the Comics and Games Expo or whatever. But it's not on Sunday. So let's see here. Morning from North Queensland. How you doing? Already planning a box, new Spearhead Warband? Absolutely. Blue 9, how you doing? GW prices going up. This is why I just buy their centerpieces. Gotcha. I did buy a model. So I went to, when I was in Canada, I went to 2 stores in St. Catharines. At one store, I didn't buy anything because it was mostly a board game store. And I was just like, that's not my kind of thing. And then the other store, it was interesting. They had a lot of 3D printed stuff. Like they must have had a 3D printer there, or they've got someone 3D printing for them, and they're just selling 3D prints through, I'm assuming, licensed, STLs. Meaning, like if you just go and grab an STL off of My Mini Factory and then start selling it on Etsy or selling it at a store, you're not supposed to do that. But most sculptors will sell you a license and say, yeah, you can print this and sell it to people and it'll be great. And you just pay more than the usual just STL cost. So I'm assuming they're doing that, but maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, I bought kind of a cool chunky Minotaur guy because I was just like, well, it's kind of neat. Don't see that everywhere. And then when I went back over to the United States side, I stopped in a humongous mall outside of Buffalo. Something that starts with a W. It's the W West, something W Galleria. And massive. It was huge. But I was just really, really hungry. So I'm like, there's probably a food court. And so there, and then I walked around and I found a game store. And it was a pretty good game store, actually, especially for a mall. It was a really good game store. And I bought some sort of creature. Not a creature, no. It's like a Gene Stealer cult guy, Locus. I think he's called a Locus, and he's kind of a wizardy guy, and he's got like, I don't know, I'm going to kit bash him and stuff like that, but I'd never seen the model, honestly, before, so I was like, well, that's kind of cool. So anyway, bought one of those. That's literally all I brought back from Canada. Let's see, Tampa, Florida. Love Uncle Adam Sundays. Well, that's good to hear. I appreciate that. Happy Mother's Day from South Ontario. Blew my mind to see you with Ash from down the QEW there. Sure, yep. Don't really want any new GW, be it games or minis. Gotcha. Got my hands on a bottle of Burning Ore from the new AP Fanatic line. It's so nice. Thanks for being involved with Arm Painter over all of this at Tabletop Minions. Well, sure. I can't take any I can't take any of the credit for the Fanatic line as far as the way it was designed or anything like that. I had nothing to do with any of that stuff. But yeah, it's real nice. It's real nice stuff. Good morning from Rhode Island. After listening to you, Uncle Adam, I bought the Steel Rift starter in stackable terrain. I love the game. Absolutely. Yeah, it's very cool. I'm looking forward to finishing up my second warband, or whatever they're called. I don't know. But yeah, I've got one done. The other one's in progress. It's what I've been painting on Twitch recently. Starting, I guess technically I started painting it this week, now that I can think of it, on Friday. So yeah, that's what I'm working on now. Hello from North Slope, Alaska. How you doing? I want the Launchbox for sure. Nice. Warning from Albuquerque. Not excited for new Age of Sigmar unless they drastically change the rules. New Skaven models would be great, though. I feel like, I mean, they are to some degree. I'm definitely getting the vibe that it's streamlined. I get the vibe because I'm not interested in playing 3rd edition. I played 1st and 2nd edition, and I enjoyed it. I'm one of the weirdos that loved it back in the day when there were no points. I was just like, cool, let's just throw a bunch of cool stuff on the table and have a good time. But people are like, yeah, but it's got to be balanced. And I'm like, it doesn't really, not really. But anyway, yeah. So it feels to me like they're trying to like just from the stuff that they've shown on Warhammer Community and all that kind of jazz, it feels like they're trying to streamline it down a bit. So we'll see how that works. Sometimes that works great. Sometimes some people hate it. It depends on how things go. Morning from Zionsville, Indiana. I was hyped to see the auroras, but no joy. I saw lots of pictures on Facebook, but yeah, we didn't see it around here either. Hyped for Age of Sigmar 4, if for no other reason, the new rats. Yeah, the new rats will be cool. I'm looking forward to that. Good morning from chilly and rainy Denver, working on my Sylvaneth Spear Point. Gotcha. Hello from a surprisingly warm Edinburgh, Scotland. I'm getting a lot of surprisingly warm over in your neck of the woods. I think we're going to just keep getting that from now on. Launchbox is basically just a 2-player Spearhead set. Actually, a very good to get into the game compared to Combat Patrol. Sure, I can see that. I mean, it depends how much they... See, that's the thing. So, like, how much did Leviathan cost? Was it $250? It might have been $250. And so if you bought 2 Combat Patrols, it'd be $160 and $160. So that'd be like $320, right? So $250 is considerably cheaper, right? Or was it $299 or was it $250? I don't remember. Anyway, long story short is if Spearheads cost about $140 currently, although I'm assuming they'll go up in price now, probably to $148, something like that. I don't know. Maybe they'll just knock them up to $150, whatever. Then if they're going to do the same kind of thing and make them slightly cheaper, which they should, to buy the 2 of them together, then yeah, it would make sense. Because I got to be honest, and we talked about this a little bit, and not so much in the recording that we did, but we talked about it, about how, like, Age of Sigmar, though a lot of people like it, it just doesn't sell as much as 40K, just full stop. That's just kind of the way it works. But a lot of people seem to like the game, I think, more. I don't know. It's hard to say. It depends on who you talk to, for sure. In the words of Homer Simpson, Launchbox. See, there you go. After the recent ditching of older sculpts by GW attempting to liquidate my Flesh Eater Quartz, I don't know what SCBs is, sorry, and other Flesh Eater Quartz kits. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely people out there that are... Well, the thing is that you could also, if you wanted to, you could always, just switch over to some different rules, like 1-page rules. Use the same models. Organizing my newly purchased Army Painter collection after finally breaking away from GW paints, trying everything from Fanatic to Speed Paint 2.0 and even some older war paints I bought this week. Nice. I'm excited to see what's new in this edition. I just hope it's not going to be Grimdark route. I prefer the more hyper fantasy it has now. Don't want to hear 40K Gatekeepers whining it's copying 40K. I guess I haven't gotten that vibe at all, but... Although the new... What's it called? Ruination Chamber? They're a little... what's the word I'm looking for? Emo? Maybe not emo. I don't know. You know what I mean. Bonjour. How you doing? Morning from Rockton. Hello from the woods north of New York City. How you doing, Jim? Morning, hello, Adam. Did you get caught up in the Manor Lords hype? I don't even know what Manor Lords is, so no. Is it a video game? I'm thinking of Banner Lords. Banner Lords? No. What's the one? I don't know. Good morning from the oil patch in West Texas. Finishing up Sherman tanks with grandkids, planning to start my first Age of Sigmar army. Nice. Put some of those Sherman tanks into the Age of Sigmar army. That'll be weird. With the inevitable Vince Skaven videos coming. True. And how about team episode where you do one Skaven as best as you can, like Vince? Oof. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still trying to decide whether or not I want to bother trying to enter the Capital Palette again this year. If I were smart, I would start it earlier than August, since this show is at the end of August, and that's when it has to be done. If I were smart, I would start maybe in June, maybe even in July. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I just don't know if I want to go down that road again. There's a lot of stuff I also need to get done. One of my plans for this summer, and I'm trying not to have too many plans for this summer because that's how you set yourself up for failure. But one of my plans for this summer is I want to work on terrain stuff. So I want to make some videos about terrain as well. And I have stuff already planned. I've got stuff ready to go. So I think I'm going to try to focus more on that. And I don't know that I'm going to enter anything. I don't know. Maybe it's something maybe I enter next year. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I just don't know that I'm going to do that. Enter again, and do something super crazy fancy like that. Spearhead appeals far more, but all my hype currently is Epic Punic Wars. I don't even know what that is. That's interesting. I mean, I know what the Punic Wars are. I mean, well, I have a vague idea what the Punic Wars are. Getting used to speed paints. They don't work great on flat-sided miniatures, but I have had some inspiring results on some Bones miniatures I've bought and primed with brush-on white primer. You got to brush on primer, I find, or airbrush on primer on Bones. If you use rattle can, it's not going to work out very well, at least the normal Bones. Speed paints generally, and it's the same with like everybody else's kind of version of that, contrast, all those different things. They all are a little meh on flat areas. That's kind of not where they're designed to go. If you move quickly and you make sure to like clean up any like blobs or, globs and stuff like that, then they actually can work relatively well. Or if you thin them, like with the medium, with the speed paint medium, then they won't stain the flat areas as much, but they still, will work pretty well. So it kind of depends on what you want to do. But yeah, if you've got like if you're just like, okay, cool, I'm going to, paint a tank, I wouldn't tell you to do it with speed paints or contrasts or any of the other companies' kind of take on that thing, unless you were going to shoot it through your airbrush. When you shoot speed paints, contrasts, any of those things through your airbrush, they don't act like speed paints or contrasts anymore. What they do is they become something generally known in the scale modeling land as a filter. So it is a transparent color that won't completely cover up the color that you're spraying over, but it will tint it in a nice way. So if you're trying to make like a tank that looks like kind of darker and grungier and dirtier towards the bottom of the tank, let's say as an example, you just take your airbrush and you just run some like brown speed paint or whatever, like dark wood might be too dark. I would go with maybe like, what's that one? What's it? Something satchel? Or hardened leather, one of those, or even maybe bony matter or any one of those colors, and just kind of like across the bottom, just a little bit of a fade, and then you'll get this sort of like, you have this green tank, let's say if it's an American tank, and then it fades down to getting darker and darker as it gets down to the bottom, and that's from the splash of the mud over time, Like you see this with buildings all the time. Water runs off the roof, hits the ground, little tiny particles of mud over time splatter up, and then the building is just sort of slightly darker and then fades up to whatever the color of the building is. You can easily do that effect with an airbrush and some contrast, speed paint. What's the stuff that Vallejo makes? Express, something like that. Yeah, there's lots of different companies that do that. But the thing is because it's transparent, it won't cover the color that you originally put down. But also, again, understand it won't seep into the crevices and do the normal contrast thing because it becomes atomized as you fire it through your airbrush. So, preview coincides with the Dallas Open, and Thursday is the first day of that event. Okay, right. That's right. You're not wrong. Yeah, it's the Dallas Open. I'm like, tennis? No. Right. The whatever, the big tournament. Right. I rarely ever keep those in my mind. Like gaming conventions all day, sure. But like the big, huge tournaments like that happen in the southern, I don't know why they always happen in the south. They never seem to come up in the north here at all, which I'm fine with. I'm not going to them anyway. But yeah, I think I remember hearing that. New Age of Sigmar was cool to me until everyone has to take endless spells, terrain can move, and now there are places of power. I've heard a little bit about that watching Vince's channel. I'll be honest, there's almost no world in which I play regular Age of Sigmar. Again, Spearhead, yes, potentially, for sure. Well, at the very least, I'm going to paint the cities of Sigmar because they're just really cool, and I could probably use a bunch of those models in other things. So that's fine. And those I'll be painting on Twitch once I get them all friggin' built and all that kind of stuff. I've like the HQ unit guy half built. And he does not look like he's going to be easy to build in sub-assemblies. That's the thing that they're doing a lot these days, and it's really ticking me off. It's real hard to paint some of those models in sub-assemblies the way they make you build them, and that's a bummer. Anyway, but yeah, I don't see myself building like a 2,000-point army or anything along those lines. That's for sure. Let's see here. I'm still stuck in painting old metal 40K minis I bought in the 90s. It's a sickness, sure. Going too far is called bankruptcy, I suppose so. GW price hike. No one knows what the breaking point is. They haven't gotten there yet. No, I mean you're not wrong. It seems to be the case. Good morning from Mexico City. How you doing? I'm fairly hyped by the big Warcry update and the indication of continued support, but I'm not particularly interested in army games, so Age of Sigmar itself doesn't move me much. Yeah, it was interesting to see that stuff come out after the video. I'm not saying that my video made them do that, because that would be probably stupid, but it is interesting to see that the timing on that. Basically, they came out with an article on Warhammer Community. Let's see here. We gotta scroll down for a ways, hit view all news so that we can see it again, and hit load more again. It's the weirdest website. Golden ticket, warehouse update. Oh yeah, we can't ship things for a while. How weird. How long ago was this? Geez, they put out a lot of articles. Like 3 a day? Come on, dial it back a little bit. Well, anyway, somewhere in here, there's an article about Warcry. You know, they got a thing at the top. I could just, I guess, go up here and say, show me Warcry. Probably should have done that right off the bat. Here we go. It was on the 9th of May. Good Lord. All right. So this is a big thing here, and it's MetaWatch, which, anyway. But it's something, you know what I mean? It's something about that, and there's a bunch of changes and things, a thing you can download, yada, yada, yada. And there's a video, which I didn't watch, but I heard about it. So yeah. So that's good though. I mean, at least they're doing something, right? They're definitely still putting a little bit of effort into Warcry, and I hope that they continue to do it. I hope they keep making more stuff. I hope they make a box I'm interested in, but they haven't in a while. That's a kind of a bummer. Like, what's the most recent box that they announced? Oh yeah, this is. No, that's not. Is it? That's a kill team. That's the nightmare one. Oh yeah, this one. No, I don't want any fish people. Well, they're not fish people. If they were actually fish people, I'd be on board, but they're not really. Or whatever these guys are. Those aren't even fish people. Those are the elves, right? I don't know. I can't care less about either of these forces, frankly, but that's just me. So if they eventually come out with a box that I'm like, oh, that's going to be cool, then I'm interested. Now, that being said, Kill Team actually is coming out with a box soon, right? It's going to be Brood Brothers, and it's going to be, which are basically like Imperial Guard, but they've already been infected by the Gene Stealer cult or whatever. And then what was the other thing? Oh, squats in leather jackets, which are kind of cool. Or coats, technically, I guess, or leather coats, because they're long. That's the first time in a long time where they've made a Kill Team box where I'm like, I'm not going to play it, but I want those models because I'm going to use them in other stuff, both sides. So that's a good thing. Yeah, I don't know what the next Warcry set's supposed to be. They've probably said someplace and I just haven't noticed. Oh yeah, it's these guys. It's some not Seraphon. Sylvaneth versus Bone Daddies. That's right. I don't know. These models are sort of cool. A lot of the rest of these I could do without. Yeah, I don't need that. Yeah, I don't need that. Those are kind of cool though. And the Tree Folk I've never super been into. I got a friend who plays them though. But yeah, so, and that's just weird looking. Anyway, there's your story about what's going on, I guess, with that. I don't know. Let's Let's see here. Hello from a sunny and decently warm northern Sweden. I don't get hyped for anything. I'm pretty sure I'm getting hyped for the new things every 3 months. It's how the Eldar created Slanesh. I mean, that could be, sure. I have the chat with Ash bookmarked. Going to listen to it during the week in the studio. Nice. Carefully optimistic about Spearhead. I can understand that. I suspect I missed another show of some sort. It's a skill. I mean, maybe. Here in Calgary, we're hyped for the Dungeon Fest, Flames of Orion on Saturday, and Mordheim on Sunday in early August. Nice. Yes, I can understand that. I've painted my first group for Flames of Orion. Flames of Orion is an indie mech game made by Steve from the Hive Scum podcast, and it's just it's still an alpha, but it's a neat little mech game. It's a lot of fun. So I bought some of the models that he had commissioned by, I think her name is either Anna or Anna, and I don't remember which, but she's from the blog Gardens of Hecate. So she's been doing all kinds of cool stuff for a long time on a blog, and I think blogs should come back. I think we need blogs again. Let's just skip social media and just do blogs. I mean, YouTube and stuff's fine too. Twitch, that's fine too. But all the rest of that, you just Twitter. Let's get rid of Twitter and go back to blogs. Anyway, I also want to do a second set for Flames of Orion, and I want to kit bash some actual BattleTech miniatures. So I think that might be fun. Oops, that was too far of a scroll. I am way behind, and I apologize. Mexico City, I saw that one. Optimistic about Spearhead. Okay. I bought an Age of Sigmar starter box from Oliver at Broadsword in Ireland earlier this year. I'm looking forward to seeing them painted, but I am unsure which rules set I will end up playing them in. Sure, makes sense. Price hikes are why I buy used these days. GBA models are a luxury product which have increasingly outpaced my income. I'd love to pick up the new Skaven someday, though. Sure, Allison, how you doing? Hyped for Age of Sigmar 4? Yes. More hyped for TMX? Also yes. Nice. Good to hear. It was a great conversation. Thanks. I appreciate it. I want to play Old World, but no models for my faction. May do Age of Sigmar instead. Yeah. Live action Statler and Waldorf. I mean, I suppose maybe. It's fully dialed in for it. Nice. Afternoon from a warm northwest UK, painting the Saint for my Sludge army, then Warcry. Nice. Anyone who owns or is responsible for marketing a game should watch it. I mean, maybe. Right here in this drawer, I can't really turn my head this well or very well this way. I pulled a muscle in my neck at some point. Not last night, but the night before. You get old and then you hurt yourself sleeping. So I can turn this way fine, but this way it kind of hurts. Anyway, down here in this drawer, down there is a copy of our new game because the proof showed up way quicker than we thought it would. In the past, when we order the proof, because you have to order a proof, and then they ship it to you, and then you look at it, and you say yes, or you say oops, and then you have to get another proof after you make some changes. Usually in the past, it has taken, even when we tell them, here's $90 for next day air, they still take their sweet time sometimes getting the proofs done, where because they don't take the publisher proofs that we're requesting and knock them to the front of the line. We're just in with everybody else, like a bunch of anyway. It's annoying. Like, you would think that you would give publishers preference so that they could get their proofs, because you're not ordering like 100 proofs. You're ordering, in our case, 2 proofs, one for me, one for Vince, so that we can see them and look at them and go, okay, cool. Anyway, we ordered them on Saturday, not yesterday, but the week before. And I kind of assumed I wasn't going to see anything until literally tomorrow, but they showed up on Wednesday. So we ordered them on Saturday, and then there was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday they got to our houses, which stunned us both. Also, both of us were out of town. Vince was at a conference in Vegas, and I was coming back from Canada. So I didn't get to look at it till Thursday. So far, we have not seen anything that makes us think we need to make any big changes and do a reprint. So that's good. But otherwise we're good. The other thing I'm doing rest of today after I get back from Mother's Day stuff is finishing up. There's going to be a card deck available for the game as well, kind of like there was for Majestic 13. It is not a requirement. It's one of those things that's a nice to have. You don't need it, but if you want it, you can order it. I'm not a card guy, but Vince is like, yeah, but you're not everybody, which I forget. So anyway, yeah. We're gonna do that, and we're gonna try really hard on this one to not forget to put in a card like we did initially with the Majestic 13 deck, because then we ended up sending the missing card to everybody who had ordered up until the point at which we realized that there was a missing card, and then the cost to do that erased any money that we made on the deck up until that point. So it was, I guess it could have been worse, but it is not ideal. Anyway, so that's where those things are at right now. So if we're going to have a meeting tonight, and if everything seems like it's still cool, then the game should launch on the 24th of May. So that's 2 weeks from yesterday. No, 2 weeks from Friday, this past Friday. Yep, so less than 2 weeks, let's just say that, because today's the 12th. Yep. I often get goblin brains, sausage fingers, and motivation slumps. You should probably talk to a doctor about the sausage fingers part, I think. I don't know, maybe not. But there's one constant in your calming voice and tutorials. Thank you for getting me through my ugly phase. Well, absolutely, Barry. I appreciate that. And again, if your fingers are really swollen, you're going to want to talk to a doctor. But the rest of those things, the doctor I don't think is going to be able to help you much with. Good day from Cootamundra. That's not a word I've heard before, but how you doing? Montreal, almost missing the live because I was watching your GMG interview. Absolutely. Morning from Seattle, long-time listener, first-time live. Thank you for all you do for the hobby. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Good news from Atlantic, Canada. Got you playing in the background while doing some baking. Nice. My allergy hasn't bothered me so far this year. I normally get hay fever. I had, there was something that was blooming like 3 weeks ago, and this eye was just running constantly, and it sucked. Badges and hotel block are open for Dragonfall. Did you get yours? No, I still got to get my hotel room. I keep forgetting. Almost tried to go to the farmer's market in Oshkosh and realized it doesn't start till June 1st. True. Yep, doesn't start till June. Goes to June through October, I think. Hello from Athens, Greece. How you doing? Booked my rail tickets for Osarmerfest. Still need to buy ticket, event, and accommodation. Wow, I don't know what that is. That sounds cool. Morning, Uncle Adam and Minions from a gray and rainy Ontario. Mother's Day brunch, then back to working on my Tau Breacher team using Holbein liquid acrylics. Their colors are incredibly rich. I've not heard of them. Interesting. Prices will rise until they start pricing themselves out of the market. I mean, that's kind of business, is that businesses will do that sometimes. Will just keep pushing it, just trying to see until all of a sudden they see sales drop significantly, and then they're like, oh crap, and then they stop increasing prices. Like they always say, oh, we're increasing prices because of, the rising costs and this and that and the other thing. And I'm just like, I don't know. I was looking forward to Age of Sigmar 4. I have 3 armies, but with the GW price hike and the recent political nonsense, I'm not supporting them at all directly anymore. Good morning from Columbus, Ohio. How you doing, DJ Todd P. Harris? Spoiling the wife for Mother's Day. Nice. Belleville, New Jersey. My group is super hyped for 4th and are pestering me to start up a Spearhead Escalation League once 4th drops. Would the Escalation League start with Spearhead and then add on to that? I guess I could see that. But otherwise, I don't know if you could play Spearhead and just slowly build up to a full Spearhead. I don't know how that would work. Saskatchewan is fun to say. See, I agree. Saskatchewan and Saskatoon, 10 out of 10 naming. Just painted my first Age of Sigmar mini. Nice. JP Got Rockets, how you doing? Can't make it to TMX this year, maybe 2025. Absolutely. Morning from Alaska. Did you get any of the Northern Lights action where you live? It's cool that so much of the lower 48 gets to experience something we see all the time. I didn't see it, but I saw a lot of people around me who must have seen it on Friday night. Like we were outside at one point Friday night, like leaving some friend's house and going home. And I looked around and I'm like, I don't think I see anything. And then I looked a little bit last night and I didn't see anything either. So, but there were people I must have just been out at the wrong time because there were people who live near me who are friends of mine who posted pictures on Facebook. So it did happen here. Let's see. Hey, how's it going today? How you doing? Good time of day and hot and sunny Surrey, UK. Spring cleaning my hobby shed and looking for a part that has gone missing. And that's always the worst, isn't it? Good morning from Maine. How you doing? As long as GW sells everything almost immediately, there will still be room for price hikes. Sure. I mean, admittedly, it's also because they're underproducing. Like, it's not like they're like, oh man, we made so much and it just sold out. No, they're just like, yeah, we kind of talked about that a little bit in the talk that Ash and I did about how they're in this situation where they only just keep producing new, and the problem is that if you're a store owner, you can't get things restocked, like things that have been out for years. Person starts, they buy some brand new box, like the new Chaos box. They buy this new Chaos box that's going to be coming out or whatever. It's going to be super cool and have all this neat stuff in it. And they're like, cool, well, I got to get something to drive these guys around on the board, when I'm playing a 2,000 point army. And then you go into your local shop and you're like, hey, you got any Chaos Rhinos? And they're like, no, I don't. I can't. I've been trying to get Chaos Rhinos for 3 months, and so that doesn't help to try to get long term. It's a term that I've never heard the term before, but Ash used it a couple of times, and it's fast nickels and slow dimes. Basically, they're looking for what can we do to make instant sales now? What can we do to make this happen? But over time, you're going to have a problem when people are like, I can't get my army built because I can't buy the stuff I need for it other than that initial launch box that you put out. Because, basically these days, GWs, if it's not new, they kind of aren't making it. They aren't producing very much. And partially, I'm sure they want to, probably. I'm assuming they do. You'd think they would. But I think it's just a situation they just don't have the production bandwidth right now because there's all kinds of different weird things going on there from what I understand. But yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting. Greetings from Ireland. Only one model off my Spearhead to build, but I'm focused on Old World right now. Gotcha. Howdy from Dallas, Texas. Hot and humid here this week. Several of my friends and I are excited for 4th. We enjoy combat patrols, so Spearhead looks very appealing to us. I think it's going to be very interesting to try it out, like I said, on the smaller board. That's going to be... The upside to the smaller board is that it's going to take up less space, obviously, at your house, but also take up less space at a game shop, too. You'll be able to, one of the benefits of that 22 by 30 board is that you can put it on a normal 6 foot by 30 inch, like conference table, plain old conference table that everybody uses for all kinds of things. It fits on those really easy. You can either do it the horizontal way and have lots of space, or you can even turn it the 30 way and then just not have any space on the ends, but you could have space around and stuff like that. Depends on how you want to do it. So a lot of stores maybe only have a couple of big tables that are designed like for bigger miniature games, but they have lots of tables that are set aside for like Magic the Gathering type stuff. And if you can play a game that fits on the Magic the Gathering tables, then you don't have to come to the shop sometimes and go, oh geez, there's no room. You know what I mean? Because the 2 tables that they have for miniatures are already being used. But there's all these other tables, but our stuff won't fit on it, So it's a smart move, and it made a lot of sense with Kill Team, made a lot of sense with Warcry. It'll be interesting to see how it works with Spearhead. And again, I just know somebody told me about that. I don't remember if it was in an article. It's not something I've read yet, but so they could have been lying or wrong or who knows, but that's what I've heard. It would be an interesting change from Combat Patrol. Think about trying to play Combat Patrol on a 22 by 30. That'd be interesting. Let's see here. Mutually Assured Gaming in Niagara Falls is a good store in the area. I think they were closed when I was there, because I looked them up. I'm hyped. I still have another year of Bone Splitters before I go to Legends, but I have Ironjaws and MON. I don't remember what MON is. Sorry. Not streaming this on Twitch? No. I stream my painting on Twitch. I stream on Twitch Monday nights at 7 p.m. Central for 3 hours, and Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Central for 3 hours. But this just streams on YouTube. I don't know if there's a huge benefit to streaming on both. I would have to pay attention to 2 chat streams, which would also be difficult. And also, I'm not 100% sure how to do it. I know I could look it up and figure it out. It's not hard, I'm sure, because people do it all the time. I just haven't. There's not like a button here on OBS where I can say, hey, stream at both places, please, as far as I know. I could be wrong. But yeah, I just haven't really. I know I can do it now, especially because for a while you weren't supposed to. Twitch was like, yeah, don't do that. Especially because I'm a Twitch partner, and they were definitely didn't like that. Now they're like, whatever. But I haven't done it. GW being constantly sold out of stuff, unfortunate. Few things I'd like to get just can't be had. Yeah. Price increases making me even more likely to just finish my existing armies and be done with GW. I understand that. I understand that. Good afternoon from Cambridge. Painting Farmer Maggot and his doggos for Middle-earth strategy battle game with my girlfriend. Nice. Don't think I've even been to St. Catharines for more than 20 years, and I live a 40-minute drive away. Sure. Good morning from the marshes of the Chesapeake Bay. How you doing? You know, seeing all the neat stuff for Trench Crusade. I'm following Trench Crusade on Facebook or whatever, so now I see lots and lots and lots of posts about it. I'm vaguely interested, but I don't know as much about it as I should. I should probably do some research on it. Trench Crusade, for those of you that don't know, is a new game that I believe is written by the guy who wrote Mordheim, whose name I can't think of. It starts with a T, his first name. His last name starts with a P. It's maybe Swedish or Norwegian or I don't know, something like that. It's not Thomas. It's like, yeah, I'm not even going to attempt it. Anyway, from what I understand, he wrote Mordheim. And he is now doing this game called Trench Crusade, and it's kind of a alternate history, World War I-y kind of crazy thing going on and stuff like that. And there's a lot of the models are really interesting looking, but it's not like they're not like putting out plastic models. I think it's all STLs, but it's also miniature agnostics. You can go crazy and kit bash and do all kinds of stuff like that. But yeah. Morning from San Francisco. How you doing? We'll paint Blood Reavers today for my Corn Army. Looking forward to Spearhead. Nice. Good morning from cloudy Connecticut. Yeah, I got cloudy here all of a sudden. It was sunny before. I wonder if I need to tweak this. Not that way. That way. A little better. There's a cat hair on there too. It's a little thing for blowing dust off of stuff. Anyway. Full agreement on the early days of Age of Sigmar? Sure. Hello to the Rhode Islander in this chat. There you go. Hello, Wisconsin. Skirmish Sunday at my FLGS today. Nice. Morning from Toronto. Hope you had a good visit up here to Canada. Yeah, it was a good show. It was a distributor trade show. So, for those of you who don't know, the distributors are the companies that work between the publishers and the manufacturers and the stores, so that stores don't have to reach out to every different game company and every different paint manufacturer and all that stuff and say, I need to order this and I need to order that. And instead, they can reach out to the distributor and say, I need 1 of these and 2 of these and 4 of these and 6 of these from a bunch of different companies. And then the distributors are the ones who are dealing with all the different companies out there. And then the stores order just from them. So they're like a middleman. But with an actual purpose, you know what I mean? For the most part. So there's that. Anyway, a lot of these distributors have a tendency to have these trade shows where they invite store owners, employees of stores, that kind of stuff, come to these events. They take a bunch of seminars and they do a bunch of stuff and they eat lunch and things like that. And then there's usually a trade floor, which is like a vendor hall in a convention, except you don't buy anything there. You just walk around and look at stuff and learn about new products coming from companies and learn about, you know, whether these are things you want to carry in your store or not. So I was there for Army Painter, basically explaining to people about the paints who didn't know about it, or, you know, just doing all kinds of things like that. Answering questions. There were a lot of questions about like, well, I bought the new big rack that Fanatic paints are on. What do I do with my old rack? And then the answer is, well, did you get the half rack for Speed Paint 2.0? And they're like, yeah, that's weird. Why is it a half rack? And then we're like, and then I say, well, because you take the top off of the old war paint rack, put it in the back room, you can stick backstock in it or whatever, and then you put the speed paint rack on top of the old Fanatic rack, because then it'll be speed paints on top and spray can primers on the bottom. And they're like, wow, did you guys plan that? And we're like, well, and they're I didn't plan it, but they did plan it. That was the plan from the get-go. So anyway, let's see. So anyway, that's what I was doing there. I was there, like the show ran on Monday and Tuesday, at least my portion of it. A lot of people got there I got there on Sunday, but some people even got there on Saturday. Let's see here. GW game I'm all in as Legions Imperialis. Not likely to go for another game. Maybe Darktide if I come to unexpected cash. Sure. Full agreement on the early days of Age. I saw that. Yes, I know it's in Milwaukee. Chicago is the best airport for me. Flying from Germany. Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, I just want to make sure. Let's see here. New Age of Sigmar looks really cool, especially Spearhead. I like dabbling in multiple armies and don't really care for list building that much. Yeah, that's I think the benefit of like both, Combat Patrol and also Spearhead, especially if you're a person who just doesn't want to go down the road of like, oh, I got to list build this and list build that. And there are people who love list building, and that's fine. But there's people like me who just kind of don't. So, Good evening from a random location in the Middle East. How you doing? Dominion has an orc spearhead in it. Really? The orcs in there you can turn into a spearhead? That's pretty cool. Completed the chain rasps with kit bashed shields. It was fun. Looking for my next Age of Sigmar project. Nice. Been holding off on getting back into Skaven since last year. Realized how old the models were and heard the rumors about a refresh. So pretty hyped for the new Launchbox. Spearhead appeals too. Yeah. I mean, new Skaven I'm looking forward to, I'll be honest. I've basically only ever played sci-fi tabletop games, and I rarely 40k, but I'm oddly hyped for models, and I'll definitely try out the Age of Sigmar Combat Patrols, or whatever they're called. Spearheads is what they're called. Although some of the boxes still say Vanguard on them. That was the initial name that they called those boxes, but I think they needed to change the name because of maybe a legal thing or something, and so they changed them to Spearhead. But still, some of them, at the store, at your local store might still say Vanguard on them. Happen to be married to a wonderful woman that happens to be a mom. So, well, sure, that makes sense. We're estimated to get up to 29 degrees Celsius here, and that's the coldest it's been all year. Oh, wow, geez. Good interview with Ash Barker. Well, I appreciate that. It was fun talk. Very excited for new Age of Sigmar. Love getting free index rules. I'll stick to those rules for the next few editions. Yeah, I get that. What's not to love about Ninja Rats? That said, unless they make them playable in Warcry or something, I'm unlikely to get any. Sure, I can understand that too. The mother of my fur babies is out of town. Gotcha. I've liked some of the fantasy models in the past, but never really had any interest in playing the game. I liked first and second editions of Age of Sigmar, like I said. Third got real dense, like a lot of stuff going on there, and it just wasn't for me. Dark Oath models look insane. They're pretty cool. Mordheim and Warcry, on the other hand, also true. Yeah. Do you feel Age of Sigmar as a setting has found its footing in recent years? If not, what big things is it missing to hook people? As far as the setting is concerned, I don't know if there's anything, like, I'm not a lore guy, so I don't pay attention to literally any of it much. I very frequently, listen to Eisenhorn, that whole series, and Ravnor, pretty much, not quite on repeat, but I listen to them very frequently. But otherwise, yeah, there's almost nothing lore-wise in Games Workshop that I pay too close attention to. So as far as the setting is concerned about Age of Sigmar and the Mortal Realms and all that jazz, for me, I'm the wrong guy to ask, honestly. I'm not the guy to say, oh, well, if they would just make it so that then there were more, they talked more about this or that. So I don't know. I think for me, the most important part of all of these games is rules. It always has been. If I don't enjoy the rules, I won't play the game. Like, there are plenty of folks out there I know that love 40K, let's say, love the lore, love the models, and they just complain and complain and complain and complain about the rules. And so my question is always like, then why do you keep buying the models and keep playing the game and keep it? Like, if you hate the rules, stop playing, or take those models and use them someplace else. You have so many options. But yeah, to some people, they just don't care about the rules. The rules are the least important part, and for me, they're the most important part. So, Manor Lords is a video game city builder. Gotcha. I haven't heard of that one. Let's see here. A couple Sherman tanks would certainly give the Ogre Kingdoms a run for their money. You'd hope, yeah. For TMX, is there any tanks for Apocalypse games planned for TMX? Not so far that I know of. I mean, something could happen. I'll talk a little bit with Vince about it, because Lord knows we've got terrain, and mats. We've got 3 mats and enough terrain for 3 tables. So, we don't have tanks, so people would have to bring their own tanks. But I'll talk to him about it, and if there's something, then I'll put a thing in the thing on the website, and then I don't know, post about it on probably Twitter, I guess. Unfortunately. Good afternoon from France. Do you know if there's an official charts of matching colors from Army Paint or War Paints Fanatics to the old range? I can't find a match for some of the colors in the old range. I don't know if there is. I've not seen one. If I can remember, I'll try to ask Adam about that and see if there's something about that. As for paints, I'm slowly replacing my Citadel colors with AK paints as they are readily available here. I do like the dropper bottles, and the paint itself has given no issues so far. Dropper bottles are very good. Yep. By the way, I'll be at Nova. Got the hotel booked. I need to get the badge and the flight sorted. Oh, yeah, yeah. Do I have my flight sorted? I don't think I have my flight sorted. I got to do that, but I got my hotel. Hyped for Spearhead. Would love to stop in at my local game club for a game that takes about 2 hours and then go home without feeling like I just worked a double shift. Yeah, no, I can understand that. That's when people fought against the Xenos puns, a terrible time of unpleasant slaughter and really strange hats. Punic Wars, gotcha. How's things going? I'm hyped about getting some dirty down rust paint. Looks really cool and easy to use. Dirty down rust takes a little bit of work. You really have to shake the hell out of it. Like, if you just pick it up and just go shake it, shake it, shake it, shake it, it's like you didn't do anything. You really, if you can, you really want to have some sort of electronic shaking device to make the dirt, because the bottom is just packed with like well, it's not pigment so much as it's actually, I think, iron or something like that. Iron oxide, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, it is definitely something that you have to really shake the heck out of. So that's step one. Step two is, from what I understand, and I think there's videos about this. Yes, we're all impressed by your motorcycle. You put it down, and then I think if you spritz water on it a little bit, then that helps to activate it quickly or something like that. I don't know that. I've only used it sort of unsuccessfully, but I did shake the heck out of it. I just don't think that I spritzed it or whatever. And so that's the thing, but I'll have to mess with it, because I do want to, like I said, I want to do some terrain this summer, and some of the terrain I want to do is a bunch of like Necromunda stuff. Like these types of things, which I picked up recently from my local game store. These are columns and walls, Zone Mortalis stuff. I've got a bunch of the Zone Mortalis tiles. Like, there was a while where you just couldn't get them ever, so I bought like one little packet of them, which I think is 4 tiles, which makes a 2x2, which is probably basically good enough for some of the games that I want to play. But I was like, yeah, but I want some more though, because I might want to go bigger. But the thing is, if you buy another pack of them, then you only have 8, which is still not a 3x3, because you need one more. Then you need 9 to be able to do 3x3, right? So, long story short is, I think I have 3 boxes of those tiles now down in the basement. But my plan now is to, instead of just set them up and then set terrain on top of them, I want to actually make each of them a different modular piece that has terrain attached to it, so that then I can take them and then put them and then like turn them, and they'll still kind of match up a little bit. And so it's going to take some work to figure out how I want to lay all this stuff out. But I want to make it, because then you can like actually like almost kind of build things into the tiles, as opposed to just having things set on top of it. You can actually get in there and like, I've seen people, there's a guy locally here who kind of gave me this idea, but he would like cut holes in the tile so that pipes could go in there, and then it looks like they're going underground and everything, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I want to do some of that kind of stuff. And then I could see a lot of dirty down rust in certain spots on those pieces, because it just makes them look better. So thanks to the explanation of speed paints to an airbrush. Absolutely. Hardened leather works fine for that as well. Sure. I'll be at the Age of Sigmar painting class during that preview. Nice. With new Age of Sigmar, with Zenithal priming work with elf skin, Luminous for those crazy pale daughters of Cain. If you wanted to go down that road, to be perfectly honest, because there is a decent amount of skin on some of those models, the way I would honestly do it would be, I would paint the models, instead of doing a white to black Zenithal, I would do, because they're like a real pale, I would use like My Zenithal would be maybe a purple. Like I would I would probably prime the thing black. And then I would spray everything with purple, all the nooks and crannies and all that kind of stuff. I might leave some of the black shadow in some spots, now that I can think of it. But otherwise, I would predominantly go with like a purple, and then I would go like a super light kind of super light skin tone, or maybe even an ivory to spray over the top, because then all the skin parts are going to go from like a really pale ivory to like a purple in the shadows. And then that might work pretty well, but then the skin's like basically done. Then you go through and you actually hand paint all of the armor and the swords and the shields and all that kind of crap. It depends on how much skin's on your deepkin folks, you know what I mean? But I think that's not a bad idea. So very frequently it makes sense if you know your color scheme, and the color scheme is a predominant color scheme on a model. Let's say a Space Marine who is a Blood Angels. Well, then they're going to have red armor. So instead of doing the white to black Zenithal and then putting red speed paint over them, I'm just going to airbrush them bright red to dark red, over maybe a brown or black primer. If you were doing Imperial Guard and you knew that they were going to be the standard kind of Cadian vibe, then I would do them in like a sand tone, from like a light color to a dark color. And then all the armor parts I would paint in green with either a speed paint or just even like a regular layer paint or something like that. But there's all the cloth parts would already be then pre-done at the airbrush stage. It's always looking for little places like that where you can cut a couple of steps off without having to have it impact the overall quality, Wife needs to go shopping. Happy Mother's Day. Absolutely. Been in a pleasant fugue state, painting these old metal sculpts of the Inquisition models. That's cool. Think I might get into Age of Sigmar when 4th edition drops. I mean, that's the thing, is you'll have the benefit of Spearhead. So Spearhead, just like Combat Patrol, is designed to get people into the larger game. Combat Patrol is designed to get people into 40k. Because you are playing the 40k rules, you are just playing with slightly modified smaller forces that, but the rules are the same. So unlike Kill Team, where you play Kill Team and now you're like, now I want to try 40k, and it's a totally different rule set, Combat Patrol is, now it's getting too bright. Combat Patrol is it's the same, right? Combat Patrol is the same rule set as 40k. It's just that the stats for the individual units that are in the Combat Patrols are slightly tweaked. Secondary victory points are slightly tweaked. There's like all kinds of little things that are slightly tweaked, but otherwise it's the same rule set. So yeah, and it's going to be the same thing, I'm assuming, with Spearhead. We have to have big gaming tourneys in South because we can't get any of the big gaming cons to come down here. I really trade, though, because I would rather go to have the cons. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that, sure. Oops, went too far. Let's see here. I'm way behind. There we go. I agree. GW and sub-assemblies these days. Yeah, I wish they wouldn't do it that much. I only own Beastmen. I'm not hyped at all for New Age of Sigmar. Understandable. Yeah, totally. Have a look at King's War, Oathmark, and one-page rules. True. Those giant hypno machines aren't meant to be easy to build, or we'd all have them. Sure. I'm bummed Beastmen got yanked. I liked the goat people. Me too. They fit my Chaos Soup army. Also the same. Roger Corman passed away. Yeah, I saw that this morning on, I think, Facebook. He refused Waterworld as it would cost $7 million to make. I like the look of OPR so far. It's a good rule set. It's a nice kind of streamlined rule set. I think it's very good. Wish they'd slow down on the release cycle, as would most, I think. Yeah. Stores would. Most people that I know would. Yeah. Flames of Orion is awesome, indeed. How about a Waterworld IP miniatures game? Oof. Waterworld is a surprisingly entertaining flick, worth more than a single viewing. It's not bad. It just, it was really expensive, I guess, and so that was part of the problem. Really enjoying miniature agnostic skirmish games because you can make a lot of varieties of warbands of 4 to 10 miniatures each. A lot of 90s era randomness is getting used in my games. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, miniature agnostic skirmish games are I'm very much on board with those, to the point where at this point Vince and I have published, well, technically 4, and we're about to publish a 5th. Let's just get rid of Twitter in general. Such a dumpster fire. You're not wrong. Although the problem is that I was like, well, maybe Blue Sky is going to be the way to go. And then the guy who started Twitter, who then started Blue Sky, just recently quit because he's like, oh, Blue Sky's going down the same road. And I'm like, oh, for God's sakes. What's his name? Jack Dorsey? Dorsey. Probably Dorsey. I'm just looking forward to a new General's Handbook with tactics that don't evolve around magic. Korn is displeased, having only 2 tactics used from the General's Handbook. Sure. I mean, that's kind of a thing about Korn anyway. They're not super into magic. Putting together my new Dark Oath army set right now. Nice. Throwing down everything from Hero Clicks, Mage Knight, Critter Commandos, Mutant Chronicles, GW board game miniatures, and more in Space Weirdos. It's becoming my go-to for quick games. It's an amazing game. Yes. Space Weirdos is one of my favorites, for sure. I would be hyped, but I'm also scared. Whatever I choose to build will be dropped in 2 to 3 years, just about the time I finish it. If you are in a situation where you have to play only GW games, then I understand the fear. But if you build and paint some cool models and then the game disappears, you still have cool models. You can use them in other games. So yes, if you were in a situation where like, nope, if it's not GW, I don't play it, then I don't know what to tell you. Good luck. But if you're like, no, I can totally play some one-page rules or some other weird, game by some weird people who make weird games, then, What non-GW games are on your horizon? I remember you'd picked up Cyberpunk Combat Zone, but never heard where you went with it. I am in the process. It is probably 3/4 built, 2/3 to 3/4 built. This first part of the year has been very busy. The second part of the year is going to be less so, thankfully. Like, I'm still going to be going to some shows. I'll be going to Gen Con at the end of August. No, beginning of August. I'll be going to Nova at the end of August. I will go to a small trade show in Fort Wayne, Indiana in September. I'll be going to a small gaming convention in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, called Dragonfall. That'll be in October. I think we're going to do VinciCon again, probably in December. But that's about it. So it's less travel. We'll be working on Snarl, the zine that we do. That'll probably come out again in November like it did last year. So there'll be that, but that's a much smaller project than, the bigger games. So there's that. But yeah, so part of it is I want to get those guys done. And the other thing too is I really want to just use a lot of enamel washes on those Cyberpunk Red models. But yeah, like I said, I think I have 2/3 to 3/4 of them built already. So I just haven't had any time to do other stuff lately. And now it seems dark again. I should look into, I don't know. I should see what happens if I decide to set the ISO on this camera to auto and then have that be the thing. But then I feel like it's going to just, it doesn't change between ISOs smoothly. I feel like it'll just go and then be brighter and then be darker and kind of, but I should test it before I assume that it's going to be weird. But it's an inexpensive camera, so I assume it's going to be weird. Ash Barker posted your interview yesterday. Yes, he did. Yep. Hope the week treated you well. I'm putting together 70 push-fit Space Marines for a paint day at the FLGS today. I'm about 25 in. Nice. Long time since I got to see you live. Summerish greetings from Tuscany. How you doing? Let me see. Where am I here? Ba-da-ba-da. Twitter, Dark Oath. Hope you're having a fantastic day, as well as I do to you. Non-GW games, just read that. Can't wait to see the new game. I appreciate it. Cards, wonder if they do Europe these days. I mean, I think they'll sell them to Europe. I don't think they print them in Europe, unfortunately. I think the cards are still predominantly printed in the States, but I don't know that 100%. I know the books are printed in the States and also in UK. So overseas, it's a little bit easier. You don't have to. But yeah. How much playtesting do you do for your games? We do. Let's see here. So Vince does a bunch during writing. Then we hand the game off to Tom from the Warhammer Weekly show. He is our lead developer, and we pay him to first start by going through, and he runs spreadsheets up the yin yang and mathematically tries to figure out where to break the game. And if anything just jumps out at him real quick, then he's like, okay, cool, we need to tweak this. And he has, while that process is going on, he's having weekly meetings at least with Vince, and they go over that stuff. And then Tom starts to do play testing as well in that situation. Funny story. When he was doing development on Tanks for the Apocalypse, his son had a birthday and had a sleepover. So Tom's like, let me teach Tanks for the Apocalypse to all these 10-year-olds or whatever. And so they had a good time with it and played it, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm like, oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. And he's like, and then the next morning after the sleepover and everybody got up and had some breakfast and stuff, then they said, hey, Mr. Lyons, can we play that tank game again? So that was a good thing. If you can get 10-year-olds to go, hey, can we do that thing again that we did, and not just iPads or, whatever it is that kids do these days, that's good. So yeah, I would not say we do as much playtesting as they say that they do over at Games Workshop. They said that they played 1,200 games of 10th edition. Maybe, but I don't know. But we do a decent amount between Vince doing it, Tom doing it, me doing it. We also play some during VinceyCon. So then there's usually like this most recent game, Sam and Ninjan also helped. I think Tyler does some as well. And there was somebody else that I had to add to the list. Oh, there was a guy. They actually did a little bit of play testing at a convention, not a convention, a tournament, Age of Sigmar tournament called Holy Havoc or Holy, I think it's Holy Havoc. Vince and Tom always go to this play. It's in Northern Illinois, and they always go to this tournament. And they did some playtesting there as well with the tournament organizer's son, I believe. Anyway, who's like 20 or something like that. But anyway, yeah. So it's not as allegedly as much as they do at GW, obviously, but it is a decent enough, and it's worked out pretty well. But that lead developer role is super important. You can really like find a lot of issues evidently mathematically, which is that's not my jam. I'm not a math guy, so yeah, but there's a lot of that happens. Let me see here, where were we? Twitter. Can't wait to see a new game. Oh, hey, Dungeons and Discourse. How you doing, Discourse? I didn't even notice that was your question. Or I noticed the question. I didn't notice who it was. Confirmed Uncle Adam is everyone. Oh, gosh, I hope not. Cards can be expensive, surprisingly so. Yeah. I think that we sold... What did we sell our cards for? I'm going to go look. Snarlingbadger.com. Let me just go over there so you folks can see this as well. Games... Majestic 13 is $18 plus shipping, but it's like actually that number there is 51 cards, not 50. Anyway, I just didn't update that. But if you buy it now, it is the right number. But anyway, yeah. So it's $18 for 51 cards. It's not super crazy cheap. They are tarot sized, so they're bigger. They're not like a magic card. They're much bigger than that. But they're like tarot deck sized. And they're nice to haves. There's like the 26 different alien creatures, and then there's the different bases. And so rather than having to like dig through the book to look for things, sometimes you can just have the card out if you want to do it that way, and that's fine too. So, personally, because I have the PDF available, like I'll have the book because I like the book, but very frequently I can just go, have the PDF separately on my iPad and be like, well, these are the monsters we're attacking or whatever the problem is, that kind of thing. So there's that too. But yeah, I got a lot of videos to make this next week. Oof. well, next week and a half, really. That's the other thing too, is I'm going to another trade show just before the game launches, unfortunately. Luckily it's in Madison, Wisconsin, so it's like an hour and 45-minute drive, so I don't have to like fly and all that kind of stuff, and it'll be relatively short, but it is a thing for sure. Not great timing on my part. Let's see here. I wish GW could create a more simple and campaigns settings. They could offset the model release with more narrative and Path to Glory books, not lore books, but more campaign settings. Sure, kind of cool. Being broke kind of helps shut down the goblin brain. Doesn't completely silence it. Sure. Hello from sunny Sweden, listening while cooking, so looking forward to Spearhead. Game time is not in abundance with 2 small kids. Sure. No, I think that's the case in a lot of situations. Like the people who are playing like hardcore tournament play are just not like the average person. The average person doesn't have that much time to put to the game. So they want to have games that are. That's why you see so many skirmish games and things being, streamlined and things like that. It just is the way that people. It's the time that people have these days. Isn't McDonald hitting the price wall? I don't know. I haven't been to McDonald's in a long time. Ahoy from the UK. Love your shows. Thank you, Taz. I appreciate it. Started playing Warcry last week with my Black Talons box versus my friend's Fire Slayers, and boy, it was amazing. I think Warcry is the best rule set they make currently. No interest in Age of Sigmar or playing any GW game for that matter, but I'm getting ready to print myself a new fantasy army for OPR and very excited for that. Well, that'll be cool. Do I have... No, I don't. But I do have this takeout box filled with fluff. So my 3D printer, and by my 3D printer, I mean my friend Dave, who prints things 3D for me. Whenever he brings me stuff that I send him, I'm like, hey, can you print some stuff? It always comes in some takeout container filled with fluff. But, it's cool. These are, you can probably barely see them. These are some of the robot overlords from One Page Rules. They're like kind of like not really Necrons, but you know what I mean? Necron related. Anyway, I'm going to paint some of these up at some point for some other game. Very possibly for... well, probably for, at the very least, for Space Weirdos, but potentially also for Grimdark Future Firefight. But I just wanted to try them out, the models, so I was like, I sent him a link and said, hey, can you print these? A link to a Google Docs. No, not Google Docs. Google Drive thing. So, yeah. It's not like I said, hey, go download these for me and then pay for them and print them. No, I paid for them and then sent him the copy so he could do the download. All right, well, that doesn't go back together very easily. Anyway, so, yeah, so some of the one-page rules models I think are also very, very cool. I like those. Um, 136 million excess profit suggests the issue is being a PLC, not operating cost. I don't know what a PLC is. I've heard the term before, or the acronym. No, it's not. It's an abbreviation. It's not an acronym. But yeah, I don't know. Awesome Armor Fest is a yearly festival around the weekend of Father's Day in the Australian Armor and Artillery Museum in Cairns, where you can buy rides in. Oh, that's kind of cool. I would like to ride in a tank. That'd be sort of fun. Morning from Orlando. How you doing? It's going to be over 30 degrees Celsius in central British Columbia today. I am not ready, but a good time to get priming done. Yeah, it's going to be sort of warm later in the week, but not that warm. I mean, it's going to be... Today it's supposed to be a high of 76 Fahrenheit. But that's... Yeah, then it's going to get a little bit cooler. When I had a small child, I switched to collectible miniature games like Axis and Allies and the companion game War at Sea, which was a blast as a group game. Oh, for sure. We used to play... What do we used to play? We used to play Star Wars miniatures, the pre-paints that Wizards of the Coast made back in the early 2000s. We used to play that at the local comic shop a lot. That was a lot of fun. Saw your video with Ash. Great hearing you guys talk about the mini industry. Hope to see more videos in the future. Well, I mean, I'm not going to be over in Canada that frequently, as it turns out. So, but, can't start any old army. A lot of Eldar stuff is out of market. Sure, yeah. And that's been kind of a problem for a while now. Played Mech Warriors, the click bases. I played a bit of that. Trying to convince people in my play group that not every game is for everybody. Also true. It's true. Luckily, the Unmade are just now in stock in the U.S., so I got those before they go away forever. Well, First time tuning in, I divested myself of all GW games years ago, but still find myself enjoying your videos. Well, I appreciate that. I like to talk about stuff that's not GW as well, but sometimes you got to talk about something. All right, I got to adjust it because it got bright again. This is the downside to the office, is using it as a filming studio. I have found is that sometimes the sun is bright and then other times it is not. And so, yeah, I got to figure that out at some point. I quit Warhammer / tabletop games in February. I miss playing with friends, but don't miss the BS in the hobby. Sure. I don't have any miniatures or do any painting. I just like your voice. Well, I appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say. GW price hike announced one day after I pulled the trigger on a 3D printer. Won't be buying GW for a very long time now. The prices just hit the critical level for me. I think that happens like every time they do it. And again, it's interesting to see people go, oh my God, I can't believe they raised the prices. And I'm like, really? Because they do it almost every single year, and they've been doing it for a long time. Sometimes it's not every year. Sometimes it's like every year and a half, but yeah, they do it a lot. The problem is they always do like the worst possible PR on it, and I feel like they did it again this time. I love skirmish size games for that reason. Yep, me too. I like the size of Spearhead. Feels like 2 warbands duking it out. Plus, I don't have to worry about growing my army with products you can't get. Also true. Like once you buy that box, you have that box. I really want to try a Spearhead mode, but I'm skipping the new Age of Sigmar box and using the old chunky Stormcast. Sure. Building plastic Blood Bowl pieces with Tamiya, or is it Tamaya? I can never remember. Extra thin cement. Hello, game changer. I don't like plastic cement personally, unless I'm building plastic terrain kits. Then I like it just fine. But for regular models, I don't. And Vince disagrees with me, but that's fine. But that's why there's multiple different types of glue, so you can use different things. Or that's not really why, but you know. Might be my first venture into World War II gaming. I've had a hard time trying to get into it. Sure. Thoughts on Studio Tomahawk's V for Victory new World War II skirmish game? I've not heard of it at all. We had our Gaslands and Friday Night Dogs last night. I had a terrible game, but the Friday Night Dog was delightful. Oh, nice. Say what you want about GW, but this 11-piece ogre went together pretty easy. Was worried about a gap, but they lined up with a stripe on the leg. Well, that's good. Tuamus. Tuamus? Is that how you pronounce it? Piernan? I think I might be saying it wrong. Just looked up at Crusade. Doesn't look like it will be produced anytime soon. No, probably not. I like the idea of Trench Crusade for similar reasons. I like Trump 28. Yep. Probably sunk 10K into collectible miniatures games. Piles up fast. Oh, yeah, I suppose, yeah. Looking forward to the Siren's Watch from Jamie Daggers. I like the idea of a turn-based strategy game for the tabletop. Well, I mean, tabletop games are all turn-based, right? I've got some friends that played her game at in the Black Site Studios booth at Adepticon. My friends Eric and Emily, and they had a good time with it. And so, yeah, that's very cool. But I mean, technically, I guess pretty much all tabletop games are turn-based, right? Unless you mean like RTS, like it's more like a computer turn-based, right? I'm not sure. Dirktide should have been a $60 board game for the Barnes & Noble or Target exclusives. Well, it is a Barnes & Noble, isn't it? Isn't it a Barnes & Noble game? I thought it was a Barnes & Noble game or a Target game, one of the two. And I also didn't know what the price was. There are a lot of models in there, right? Because you get like a bunch of, you get Poxwalkers and also some Chaos, like Trader Guard. I don't know. I haven't looked closely at it. I'll be honest, as soon as they showed the board off and there was no terrain on it, I just kind of went, oh, I really prefer games with terrain. That's kind of the case. Do you think it's a good way to start war games the next Age of Sigmar, or is it better to stay away from Warhammer? I mean, if you're interested in Age of Sigmar, fantasy, like that whole kind of thing, you like the models, you like the concepts and all that kind of stuff, Spearhead is probably going to be your best bet. So if you don't know, Spearhead is like in 40K, the other, the sci-fi game, this most recent edition, 10th edition, they were like, hey, look, we made it so you can just buy this one box for $160 American. And it comes with everything you need for this particular combat patrol army. You build it the way that we say, and there's free downloads to find out how you're supposed to build it. And then you don't have to worry about, oh, should I be using this model? Should I be using that model? Should I be like we've laid out your list for you, and then you use normal 40K rules to play, but the cards that have the stats and all that kind of stuff on them, the stat lines, are slightly different in Combat Patrol than they are in regular 40K, and all the boxes are supposed to be balanced against each other and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really sort of easy way to get into 40K. It's $160, and you got to build and paint all that stuff or whatever. But you don't have to buy like this book and that book and another book and all that kind of stuff. You can just download all the stuff you need for Combat Patrol for, off their website. Spearhead is the same thing, but for Age of Sigmar. Spearhead is Combat Patrol for Age of Sigmar. Except it's slightly cheaper. At least here in the States, it's $140 instead of $160, all the boxes. I don't know why. Also, I suspect that these boxes are probably more balanced than the Combat Patrol ones, because the Combat Patrol boxes were put out before they had the idea, to some degree, of making Combat Patrol a game type again, because I have run Combat Patrol in the past, but making it a game type to get people into 10th edition 40K. So they did that, and then it worked relatively well, and they're like, huh. And then I think that the Spearhead boxes come out already with this in mind. They're already kind of a bit more pre-balanced is the idea. So hopefully that's the case. We'll see, I guess. But yeah, if you want to get into Age of Sigmar, if you find one of those Spearhead boxes that you really like the look of or whatever, then in theory you can do that. Now, so if the rumors are true or whatever, and again, there's rumors because I haven't seen it in print, but somebody was telling me about it recently, and I can't remember who. If it might have been somebody in the Twitch chat, like on Friday, or I don't know. But someone was saying the Spearhead's going to be played on a 22 by 30 board. Then my question is, are they going to sell that board separately? Are they going to sell like a kit that's like, this is how you get into Spearhead? You buy this box and an army? Or are they not? I don't know how they're going to do that. So that's a thing to look into too. But, if you're interested in it, the benefit always to Games Workshop stuff is it is generally easier to find people locally, probably, who are also playing the same game, and you can get into it. Whereas if you play like an indie game, and you would decide, oh, I want to get into one-page rules. I wanted to get into space weirdos or sword weirdos if you want to play fantasy instead. Then you need to probably become kind of a gaming advocate, and you'll probably need to build 2 war bands, 2 small groups, 2 small groups for your skirmish game, so that you can have a friend say, hey, let me teach you how to play this game. Pick whichever one of these you think it looks cooler, and then I'll take the other one, and then I'll teach you how to play. That becomes kind of a thing if you want to go down that road. Again, the reason you do a skirmish game, which is usually 4, 5, 6, maybe 10 models per side, as opposed to I'm going to teach you how to play an army game, is because then you need 2 painted armies or built or whatever. But you need 2 armies, which gets kind of expensive and difficult. Whereas if it's smaller war bands, it's much easier for you as the gaming advocate to kind of, supply both of those things. So that's kind of where that comes from. Is it better to stay away from Warhammer? That's a personal preference. I mean, it's expensive. There's no way around that. And it's also sometimes hard to find, strangely enough. Like, new stuff comes out, and sometimes the new stuff sells out instantly and you can't get it. Sometimes it doesn't. But if you are deciding you want to enlarge your army and add more stuff, trying to get older stuff can be, these days at least, it seems like, difficult to do. It seems to be some sort of production issues going on and things like that. So we'll see. But yeah. First Trench Crusade Kickstarter is still waiting for fulfillment. I'm not sure what their plans are after that. Playtest rules are pretty solid. I mean, I guess I haven't looked at it as far as like what kind of models they're doing. If there's rules you can get, then you can just kit bash your own stuff if you're into that kind of thing. Warning from a slightly muggy Nottingham. England is attempting to spring, and I'm not sure I like it. Well, you'll get that. It is about that time. I'm somewhat interested in Darktide in spite of the silly price. I don't know what the price is. I should look that up, I guess. I see it as a one and done, but we know how that can turn out. I mean, it probably will be a one and done if it's a single box like that, but maybe not. Pretty sure there's more than one of us in Rhode Islanders in here. Well, probably. Is it better to waste for the release? I mean, if you buy a Spearhead box now, from what I understand, if you build it to basically be like the picture on the front of the box, because all those boxes, for some reason, well, at least more, you see this more in Combat Patrol. I don't know as much about the boxes. I haven't gotten that far in my Cities of Sigmar Spearhead box, but in the 40K Combat Patrol boxes, you have options for the way you can build some of these folks. You can give this guy this kind of gun or this kind of gun or that kind of, And so then the question becomes, if you don't know, because the stuff hasn't been released yet, like while we were waiting for 10th to be released, I was like, I don't know how to build my, what was the first one I built? Death Watch. So I'm like, I don't know how to build my Death Watch. And I kind of through the grapevine heard, well, build it like the picture on the front of the box. And I did that, and that basically worked out. So I'm assuming it's the same kind of deal like that for this Spearhead release. If you look at it, like if they give you the option between sword and shield or big axe on guy number 5 in the box, and on the box on the front picture they show him with the axe, then build him with the axe is probably the plan. Or just wait until the game comes out, and then all that stuff will be available. You can download it and look on the actual PDF that will show you this is how you're supposed to build all the guys, and then you just follow the instructions that are in the box and build the guys. Trench Crusade can also do easily low-end 40k skirmishes. Gotcha. I need to look at the rules, I guess, if I can. Let's see here. So it's to be expected for Kickstarters at this point. Not great, but not terrible. Yeah, I just backed a Kickstarter recently. What the heck was it even? Oh, it's just a rule set, so it shouldn't take forever. I would assume. But it is the heck is it called? It's basically it's a mech game, but it's Forbidden Psalm. Steel Psalm? I think maybe it's Steel Psalm. I've been seeing ads for it all over Facebook, and there's just 2 books. There's Mechborg, which is a role-playing game, and then there's Steel Psalm, I think is what it's called, which is like a miniature game based off of the Forbidden Psalm engine. And so I was just like, well, I don't want the RPG, but I'll buy the other one. So yeah, in theory, I'll see it sometime towards the end of the year. Let's see here. I built and painted my Skaven Blood Bowl team this week. They were a lot of fun, but yeah, the age shows. Sure, yeah, no, especially some of the Blood Bowl stuff can be kind of old. I was over the moon to receive a box of Stargrave Mercenaries for my birthday a few weeks back, but my brother-in-law knows me too well. Well, that's very nice of him, yeah. I like that they reduced the number of textures on the Stormcast, makes them really nice starter models, sure. Listening as I'm driving home, maybe I'll paint some of my Bolt Action Marines from Adepticon when I get back. Any thoughts relating to the upcoming 3rd edition? For Bolt Action, no, I don't really know much about it, actually, at all. If you like Eisenhorn, I strongly suggest Bloodlines and the rest of the Warhammer crime line. First one I ever believe I've caught live. Well, absolutely. How you doing? Love the models and lore, but not the rules. Yeah, that's me. Thus, OPR and more. Sure. Hello from Indiana, working on some planets and some other terrain for BFG today. Nice. Battlefleet Gothic. I'll be in Indiana in the beginning of August, because I'll be there for Gen Con. Let's see here. Do you think that the price hikes and the lack of availability of models by GW is hurting LGSs more than GW itself? I mean, it's not great for either of them, but I think it's maybe a touch worse for your local game stores. They don't have, obviously, as huge of a, like, war chest, obviously, to sit on top of to pay bills. But yeah, it's not great for either of them. But I think that for stores, honestly, I think for stores are going to have to eventually get to a point where if they just can't get too much GW stuff, they're going to have to start thinking about diversifying and starting to do some games like, start bringing in models from like Wargames Atlantic, start bringing in like Stargrave models and Frostgrave models and things like that from North Star. There's a lot of different companies that make things like that they could also have in stock that could then move if somebody comes in and they're like, oh, I really need this. Well, if they need like a specific thing from GW and that's all that they could possibly use, well, you can just tell them, sorry, they're not available. They don't make them currently. They don't have them in stock. We can't get them. This is a GW problem. That being said, it could also be a situation where maybe then you're like, if you've been really enjoying the concept of this, maybe you should take a look at Frostgrave. Maybe you should take a look at, you know, one-page rules. Like, there's all kinds of options. Now, the downside to something like one-page rules as a store owner is you're not going to be able to sell them the rules, and you're not going to be able to sell them the models particularly. You can sell them models that will work in one-page rules for sure, because there's a lot of models that will do that. But yeah, it's putting stores in a hard place right now for sure. Afternoon from Scotland. Just finished a game Kings of War. Now for a barbecue. Ooh, nice. I can do some barbecue. Let's see here. How do you normally check out new war games? I read them, and then very frequently, if I'm trying to figure out like the rules themselves and how they work, I will just play a kind of a quickie game against myself a little bit. Like, I'll just take a squad and sort of like, once you kind of run through the loop, the play loop as it's usually known, that can help a bunch. You can really start to learn something about a play loop. Like, if you want to get really into the weeds about all the depth and detail that might be in a very detailed game, like say 40K, let's say BattleTech, you know, games that are really super crunchy, then it takes more than just like let's learn the play loop and let's kind of learn that kind of stuff. But otherwise, is for me at least, learning that play loop is a huge step towards that. And if a game is like, yeah, but there's so much more stuff, you got to learn about all the 26 different factions that we have, and you got to look at all the codices and things like that, I'm more likely not to. It's the case. So there's that too. If a game gets too crunchy, then I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's all I need to know is that it's too crunchy, and I'm not really interested. So iron oxide is a pigment? Really? GW price hike hit the critical level for me. Players around here are buying 3D printers. Even the very hardcore 40K players that frowned at me when I mentioned 3D printers are buying 3D printers. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm hoping very much that they are 3D printing models made by independent creators who make cool stuff, as opposed to, oh, I found some weird Russian scans of GW models that I want to 3D print. I'm hoping that's not the case, because that's bad. Just as it is. And also, it's then just opens you up to a wider world of like really interesting sculpts from a lot of other companies. Even if you still want to play 40K, but you just don't want to buy 40K models anymore, you can find a lot of like Count Saz models and things like that from places like One Page Rules and places like Archvillain Games and places like what's the other one that I've gotten stuff from? Lord of the Prince, I think. The other one also is Titan Forge. They've got a sci-fi version of Titan Forge, and I forget what it's called. Star Forge? Space Forge? I can't remember. Anyway. Vince has a video on Dirty Down Rust. Really helped me. Of course he does. I'll have to watch that before I decide. Use something to stir and break loose for the bearing before you start shaking. Also important. Yeah. Always hearing about 3D printers as if no one had ever heard of a non-GW Mini before them. Sure. With the recent price hikes and life in general getting more expensive, I am not buying any new kits until my entire backlog is painted or sold off. I mean, that's not a bad idea in general anyway. You know what I mean? Do you think Blackside Studios is still considered a small indie game creator? Do they have a competitor of similar size? I don't know if they have a competitor of similar size. I would still say they're kind of small in I mean, maybe I'm wrong. In my mind, if you are a company that is medium size, and this relates back to the conversation that we were having, Ash and I were having at his place, that went live on his channel yesterday. In my mind, medium size is that you've got probably, let's say, 60 to 100 employees, maybe not as big as that. Maybe 50 to 70. I don't know, something like that. That's like a mid-sized company. You could look at, I would say that Weird Games is in that kind of niche, I think. I'm pretty sure. Or at least they were at one point. They may not be necessarily now. Catalyst Games is probably at least in that, if not maybe a little bit higher. They might be between medium and large, but I think they're probably closer to medium. Yeah, like really at this point, basically the only big company out there is GW. I mean, everybody else is, like they're sitting on, I think, and this is admittedly it's a lot of the retail people, but they've got like 5,000 or 6,000 employees. But again, half of those, well, maybe not half, almost half of those, I think, are retail employees. So there's that. But still, even if you take half of those people out, you've still got 2,000 employees, let's say. You know, that's a big company, at least in the gaming realm. You know, in the rest of the world, all of the entire industry is smaller than some electronics company that we've all never heard of. So, let's see here. Price hike on the heels of the Age of Sigmar range retirements was a double whammy, even for GW. No one can stop you when you're cornered the market. Yeah, that's the thing, is that they keep doing these weird, like, to the idea of like, hey, let's retire some models and cause a bunch of stir, and then wait about 2 weeks and then also have a price hike. Like, this just doesn't. This is, again, their PR is generally garbage. Good morning, Uncle Adam. Thank you for the stream. Absolutely. Have you tried the new Octung Panzer by Warlord Games? It looks like a game you might enjoy. I've heard about it, but I have not even had a chance to really look at it. Like I said, I was in Canada and stuff like that, but I have heard a little bit about it. Let's see. They can do anything you can't stop them doing. The best catch there is. They don't sell GW, but I would assume if a LGS is printing GW alts, GW would have a very stern word for sure. Yeah. Remember the Chapter House case? Vaguely, yeah. Oh. I am. Everything scrolled way more than I thought it was going to. I apologize. Let's see here. Gosh. That went way. Oh, there we go. Okay, Catch 22. Chapter House case. They could stop them from selling GW. Sure. They have no such authority. Well, I mean, if GW doesn't want you to sell their stuff anymore, they can. They just can make it so that you can't buy it, at least directly from them. You could, I think, still buy it from a distributor, but then you'll pay more. So GW is weird in that they are, like I said before, I was talking about how distributors are like the kind of the middleman between the stores and the manufacturers or the publishers. GW is one of those companies that, yeah, you can buy it from distributors and you'll pay normal distributor prices, but if you buy it directly from GW, then you get it for a slightly better price. But you have to jump through a bunch of hoops to become like approved to be able to buy it from their store, or from their, and have it in your store. And there's specific things that you as a store have to do to be able to get. It's a whole thing. So technically, if GW is like, we're not selling you stuff anymore, I think you could still go through your normal distributor and buy it through them, but you'll pay a little bit more. I don't know if maybe they can tell the distributor, hey, you can't do that anymore. Don't sell to this store anymore. That's a possibility of that too. I don't know. It's hard to say. I haven't heard of that ever happening, but I guess it's possible. I heard just recently that a distributor was selling Magic the Gathering stuff, I think, directly online, like through eBay or something like that, at a discount. And now they can't get, like, they're a major distributor and they can't get Magic anymore, and possibly not Dungeons and Dragons either, because it's the same company, Wizards of the Coast. I just heard about that yesterday, 2 days ago, something like that. Yeah, that's a huge blow when when you do something dumb like that and they catch you and they're like, look, we're not shipping you product anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that can be millions of dollars. So hopefully, I guess, you made a whole bunch of money off of selling that stuff cheap on eBay or whatever. I don't know. Increased prices because of increased costs is the most hilarious GW line, because I'm pretty sure they would have never decreased prices if their costs go down. Well, no, exactly. Greetings from Pesh to Go. How you doing? I assume GW can dictate how their products are distributed. Could be wrong. Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, I don't know if they can say to a distributor, hey, you can't ship to this store anymore. Maybe they can, but I've never heard of that. But I know that if you were getting your stuff direct from GW as a store, and you do something like sell stuff on your website for under MSRP or whatever the rules might be, I don't know what the exact rules are. If you do that and they catch you, they can be like, you're done. You don't have a contract with us anymore. So there's that. Let's see here. Don't forget, Kings of War has ambush rules now too. True. Waterworld was expensive because the floating city kept sinking. I feel sorry for everyone who, like me, has got the Stormbringer magazine, as you got so many Stormcast and can't really use them in 4.0. Yeah, that is. Good morning from Gilbert, Arizona. Late, but listening from the start. Nice. LGSs are not GB stores, so they have limited capacity to issue rodents posterior. I don't know what that rodents. Audio seems pretty quiet today, or maybe it's just going deaf. I think it's normal. I'm looking. No, yeah, levels are pretty much the same as usual. Let's see here. Is Korn ever really pleased, though? I don't think so. It doesn't seem like it. Are your games just rules? You don't have any miniatures? Yeah, they're what we call miniature agnostic games. So we just sell you a book. I've got somewhere over here, I've got a copy of Majestic 13, which is the most recent full-size book. So this is Majestic 13, and it is, I don't know, 144 pages. It's like the biggest book we've ever made so far. The new book is not as many pages, so there's that. It'll also be cheaper than this one too, because it's less, it's fewer pages. But yeah, so it's just basically soft cover, full color cover, and black and white on the insides. And this book costs $19 plus shipping, so pretty inexpensive. And then you just need to figure out what kind of models you want to use. And this game is basically about, you have a squad of a team, as they're called, of basically alien hunters. So any kind of like military-ish kind of looking dudes or dudettes will work just fine. You need 5 of them. That's it. You have a squad of a team of 5. And if my wife just left on her bicycle, I don't know where she was going. Oh well. So you have a squad of 5, and if one of them dies, it's okay, because when you go back to the base, you have a pod with like a clone in it. Now, the clone might not be a perfect copy. You have to roll on a chart to see how that's going to work and everything like that. But you don't have to worry about like growing your squad, or it's always 5. And then you basically, when you're fighting against monsters and stuff like this and whatever, it's always an alien. You generally are fighting against a single alien monster, sometimes 2 if things go poorly. And sometimes there's but there's very few, like you don't need like lots and lots and lots of opponents. It's more of an asymmetrical game where you have like, it's very frequently 5-on-1. So, but that one is a scary monster. So, yeah, so that's what the last game was. That was Majestic 13, came out almost a year ago. And the next game is going to be a little bit different. It's dark fantasy. The next game, that's not what it's called. That's kind of the genre, if you will. But again, it's going to be, you can play it solo. You can play it co-op. You can also play against somebody if you want to play versus mode or whatever, skirmishy. So yeah, that's kind of how that works. But yeah, we don't, we basically just sell the rules. At some point, maybe down the road, we'll work with like a sculptor that we like and do like maybe some STLs or something like that, do like a partnership. But I don't see us ever really selling plastic models. That's really expensive and also very, very time consuming. I mean, even STLs can be very time consuming, trying to figure out like if you're doing like, oh, let's do you got to do a concept artist and work with them, and then you have to have the sculptor take a look at the concept art and match it up, and it's just back and forth and iteration, and that's a lot of work. Let's see here. Excuse me. One thing I haven't seen anyone mention in Stormcast Range Dump is how it consolidates their design silhouettes into a more cohesive space. Armored dragons, griff creatures, and the occasional cloak. Sure. I had way too many Stormcast. That was part of the problem. Like, the entirety of the Ironjawz line was less than 20 War Scrolls. The Stormcast Eternals had 40 just heroes, just individual heroes in that line. So there were twice as many heroes in Stormcast Eternals than there were entire War Scrolls in the Ironjawz or whatever. So yeah, there was way too many of those guys. Do you think the recent balanced update for Warcry is connected to the smaller game push for Age of Sigmar with Spearhead? I don't know. That's a good question. I would be converting 5 Stormcast into Blood Angels, Sanguinary Guard. Oh, sure, I could see that. That's maybe kind of cool. Is a starter point entry for 10-year-olds you and Ash were looking for if they wanted to play again after the sleepover? Sure. Um, they said Underworld was most play tested, and basically they were maybe taking a minute feedback per game, quality versus quantity. Sure. In and out of watching this morning, doing chores early, then off to see Devo tonight in Nashville. Well, that's pretty cool. I'd like to see Devo. I guess we'll be seeing a lot of repurposing and conversions of the deleted Stormcast Eternals models, turning tragedy into triumph. Well, sure. I mean, that makes sense. Again, that's the thing. The models, you own them. They don't go away. Just because they're like, oh, sorry, they don't work for the game anymore. You're like, well, I still got them. What do you look for in a palette cleanser in regards to painting projects, if you do at all? Do you go for the polar opposite of the last project? Sometimes I do. Sometimes it's more of a situation of just switching over to another project that's maybe even for the same game. But very frequently it is, for me, the biggest change usually is if I'm like, I am really flagging on this, just not, then I switch over to doing terrain. Or vice versa. You know, if I'm working on terrain and I'm just like, ugh, then I switch over and I do some models. That's a big kind of, you know, change in the way things work too for me. So that helps to kind of, as a palette cleanser, as you mentioned. Let's see here. So I interviewed with Jervis Johnson recently on Jordan Sorcery's YouTube. I think I've seen some videos from that. He agrees with you on tournament play not being the most driving force in the hobby. Didn't he create Age of Sigmar originally? I don't remember if he did or not. They don't tell you who makes this stuff anymore, really. You know what I mean? Like, there's no credits in any of the books, which is weird. But so I don't know if he did, if Jervis was the launch of Age of Sigmar. I'm not sure. Maybe. It's interesting. They talk about it. He's talking about it there, saying it's not the most driving force in the hobby, but it really seems like GW is leaning into it to some degree with the articles. And we talked a little bit about this as well, Ash and I, in that conversation. When they put an article up, like a Meta Watch article, they know it gets a lot of views from people who are interested in knowing what the best model is, or what the best, you know, whatever is. And that's what a lot of Meta Watch is about. What's the best thing to do? What should I do? People want to know, what should I do? So they watch a Meta Watch video, or they read a Meta Watch article to find out, well, what's winning? If it's winning, then I want that, because then I will win. You know what I mean? That's just human nature. So from a marketing perspective, they can come back and go, look, we did MetaWatch stuff and it got a lot of views and a lot of engagement. Whereas when we just talked about, hey, this new thing is coming out, it didn't get as many views and didn't get as much engagement. So then therefore, to get more engagement, they just keep making more articles about that stuff. But it is this small group of people who are looking at it out of the larger group, but it is more people looking at it than are looking at basically advertising. That's the thing about a lot of the stuff that's on this site over here, websites, like a lot of what's going on over here, this is an ad, right? So here's the thing. Oh, this is a thing that's going to be coming out soon. You should buy it when it comes out. Like, that's the whole point. And so people go, yep, and that's pretty much it. But if they're looking for engagement, articles about, you know, people talking about, oh, well, there's Meta Watch, this can get more engagement because it is people saying, well, I think this is a better piece than that. And I think this is like, so the reason they've been leaning into Meta Watch more and more these days is, I think, twofold. I think it's partially, there's been some change in not leadership per se, but change in people working there that are, some of those folks are a little bit more interested in tournament stuff. Like, you go back 10 years, GW did not give a crap about tournaments. They just wouldn't bother balancing stuff, because they would be like, well, why would you play like that? And then people would be like, because people like to win tournaments. You guys play there in Nottingham because you want to have fun, which is great. And that's the way I prefer to play as well. But there are a lot of people out there like, yeah, but I want to win the tournament. So then they use some broken kind of shenanigans that people there in Nottingham are like, well, we never thought to play that way. That seems really unfun. Yeah, maybe it's not fun, but it wins, you know? So I think partially it is, again, a bit of a change in some of the people that are creating the content. And also it is, to some degree, just because they know that it gets clicks. So they're like, so just like regular news sites, they do things that they know gets clicks. It may not necessarily be the best article out there, but it gets clicks. So they go, okay, cool. So it's kind of the same deal in that situation, I think, right now. PLC is public limited company. It means people own shares in your company. And being a PLC is not the reason of the production problems at GW. Okay, right. So PLC, so it's basically like an incorporation. It means they're shareholders. It's a English way of saying they're shareholders. Yes, you're right. It is, or that's what they do have, shareholders for sure, and that is a problem. Like partially just because then they have a tendency in. Ash and I talked a little bit about this, and I don't think so much on air. We did talk about how like when a company gets to the point where they have to have shareholders, or they've decided to go down that road and have shareholders, then it's not good. We did say this during the actual interview when we talked. When a company gets that big, it's not good for the game company. It may be good for the shareholders. It may be good, but it's not. It's bad for the games and it's bad for the players, just in general. When the choices have to be made because somebody on a spreadsheet was able to point at it and go, this will make the line go up, that doesn't necessarily make a better game. It makes a better product as far as bottom line. It doesn't make a better game, which is why both of us were like, I think it's better for there to be more smaller companies than bigger companies in the industry. But, and Lord knows there are more smaller companies for sure. There's nobody as big as GW. So, let's see here. I like the podcast with Ash for the nuanced talk about the hobby in general. I'd love to hear more, even if it's long distance phone call style. Sure. I mean, yeah. I wish they'd just stop with the whole everybody's hurting in this economy, including us, so we just had to raise prices. We can see your investor reports, guys. You're right. Exactly. No, but like, well, but we won't be able to make the huge profits that we're making if we don't pass these extra costs on to you. You know, I mean, think about the shareholders. That's always the case, you know, and yeah. Let's see here. I was told Tamiya was pronounced Tamiya. Oh gosh, I've never even said it that way at all. That's, huh. GW always tries to make it sound like they're doing you a favor by raising prices by the amount that they are and not a little bit more. Pray I do not. I've altered the deal. Pray I do not alter it further. Indeed. Are you going to try any of the Kit Bash car games? You mean like Gaslands? Because I've played Gaslands. I ordered Majestic 13 plus cards. Living in Denmark, I'm paying one postal for rules and another for the cards. See, the thing is, the cards are produced separately from the. It wouldn't matter if you were in Denmark or even here in the States. They're printed at two different facilities. Sadly, that's one of the problems with the cards. But there's nothing we can do about that. But yeah, the book is printed through a company called Ingram/Lightning Source. Like, I think Ingram's a big company that bought Lightning Source. I don't know, but they're a digital printer. And then some other company does the printing on the cards. That's a separate company altogether. When the 51st card got shipped, I had to pay another postal fee just for that one card. Oh, that's a bummer. See, that's not supposed to happen. We paid a lot of money to get those things shipped out, and it sucks that some places that it got to, then also there was another fee. I apologize about that. I use plastic cement on plastic models. Super glue is for dissimilar materials, and I use it in those cases only. See, the reason I don't like plastic cement is because sometimes I have to go back and remove an arm or take the thing off of the base or something like that. And if it's plastic cement, it's really almost hard to do that because it actually is melting the plastic to the plastic. So for me, I like to generally use super glue on most plastic models. Again, unless it's terrain, because terrain takes a lot more of a beating, you know. So there's that. Everything is locking up. What's going on? Anyone know? Did I lose internet? So far, so good? All right. I got dark again. Do you like Moonstone? I haven't played it. Hands down, Adam is the best YouTube trader of all time. I don't know about that. To give us his undivided time, 2 hours every other week. I mean, Vince has much longer videos that he does every single Wednesday. You know, I'm just saying. So there's one I can think of off the top of my head, but I appreciate it, Blake's. Let's see here. Why is everything locking up? Is my camera locking up? What's going on? Dang it. What do we know about the new Snarling Badger game? It'll be a little shorter than the last one. It will be dark fantasy. There'll be some undead in it. I don't know what's going on. Like, even OBS is locking up, so I don't think it's my internet. And now it got super stupid bright. God bless America. I'm gonna have to fix this. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Well, nonetheless, it's like 11 here in my neck of the woods, so I should probably shut her down because things are going weird. I don't know why my camera is locking up like that. That's very strange. Dark Tide is $110? I mean, there's a lot of models in there, but geez. Mechborg. Let's see here. Deathwatcher missing a lot of love, sure. Pledge for Steel, Psalm, and Mechborg. That's pretty cool. Let's see here. Alpha Strike for BattleTech. Cyberforge. That's what it's called, Cyberforge. Yeah. I'm looking at YouTube chat. Jech, with an exclamation point at the end. I'm just way behind on it. Sorry. Yeah, it's and then it scrolled again. I wish I could better control the chat versus it just deciding to update things sometimes and just. But anyway, long story short, there seems to be some technical issues, and I'm gonna go because it's 11 anyway. So, thanks to everybody for coming by again. I apologize for having this schedule thing be all weird. The next every other Sunday show should definitely be on the 25th, right? Or whatever the date is, 26th. I don't know, but it'll be a couple days after the next game drops, so we'll be able to talk about the next game, which will be great. 26th. I'm a liar. So yeah, the next game, the game comes out on the 24th. Pretty sure, 98% sure. Knocking on wood. And then so on the 26th will be the next every other Sunday show, and we'll be able to talk about the game and of course whatever else you want to, of course. So there we go. I'm gonna check the recording and see why, if it was stuttering or if it was just here. I don't know what, this computer shouldn't stutter. It was fancy. But yeah, we'll see you folks again soon, hopefully. And again, I'll be on Twitch tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central if you want to come on by over at twitch.tv/tabletopminions. Relatively easy to find. And have yourselves a good rest of your day. If you are a mom here in the States, happy Mother's Day. If you're a mom outside the States, also happy Mother's Day. But just, it's not maybe necessarily your Mother's Day yet. But yeah. And that's pretty much about it. Thanks for everybody coming by and hanging out. And thanks for watching.